It is now my pleasure to call on Mr. Nik Wallenda, who will deliver the commencement address. Mr. Wallenda.
Good morning. It's a privilege to stand here today and share this stage with all of you and honor your amazing achievements as well. On June 15th, 2012, I fulfilled a lifelong dream not far from this university when I became the first person in the world to walk a wire directly over Niagara Falls. During that walk, I faced the challenges of wind and blinding mist on a cable dripping with water. A TV audience of 19 million people watched live, and they were captivated by those 27 minutes. However, very few were unaware of the amount of work and energy and effort that went into making that dream come true. Many actually said it was impossible. Matter of fact, 16 other wire walkers attempted to get permission to do that, and all were denied. In New York, we had to change a law that was over 100 years old. And in Canada, we were denied permission multiple times before finally getting permission only 3 months prior to the walk. With my first step on that wire in training, we found a major problem with the stability of the cable and had to redesign the entire plan. And that was only a month prior to the walk. Adding to the stress, the walk wasn't even paid for until the morning of the event. The most common question I hear, well, there's two. Are you crazy, and why? Why would you go through so much adversity just to risk your life? With each step on that wire, I was fulfilling a dream. And nearly 1 year removed from that night, I hope that some of the stories and some of the thoughts of my life's journey will inspire you to do the same. And I mean follow your journey, not walk across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. My first thought is know your passion. My performing heritage stretches back 7 generations and over 200 years. I actually began walking the wire at the age of 2 with my mother's assistance, and by the age of 4, I was walking on my own. For the next 9 years, I followed my parents as they traveled around the world performing on the high wire. It was really the only life I knew. However, at the age of 13, after my first professional high wire performance in front of an audience, I realized that performing wasn't just my family heritage, but it was actually my passion. It was what I wanted to do. I find this so critical because when you're unlikely to pursue your goals when challenges arise if they're not truly your own. As you sit here this morning with your diplomas in hand or about to be, you may not want to hear this, but if there's one thing that I can guarantee you is that no matter what path you choose in life, adversity will come. At the age of 15, I began to realize that performing life wasn't always a fairy tale. I watched as my parents' family business struggled, and eventually they went through bankruptcy. And I began to seriously reevaluate my direction in life. I was passionate about performing, but my dream was also to have a family and to be able to support them. And it seemed like these two dreams would no longer be able to coincide. By the time I was preparing to graduate from high school, I viewed my family art as a dying industry. And I was considering other options for my future profession. But by the age of 19, we were invited to recreate the 7-person pyramid on the high wire for the first time since it fell back in 1962 when 2 of my uncles were killed and one of them was paralyzed from the waist down in Detroit, Michigan. As we practiced for months leading up to this performance, I viewed this as my final goodbye to the high wire. However, as I performed in Detroit, where the dreams of some of my family had ended, my thoughts went back to my great-grandfather, Carl. He was injured that night during the fall, yet snuck out of the hospital the following day to perform on the high wire. Despite tragedy, he wouldn't give up. And I determined at that very moment that that would be my attitude in pursuing my passion. I would never give up. Once you've determined that giving up is not an option, you can approach every challenge with a mindset that another solution must exist. When I returned home from Detroit, I reflected on the amount of media coverage that we'd received from around the world. And I began to realize that if the Wallendas could draw this much attention, the industry wasn't dying, but in fact it was just changing. If I wanted to succeed, I'd need a new business model, I'd need to seek new markets, and I'd have to step out from merely performing and into more of a leadership role of my own. I encourage you to view your dreams from a perspective that does not simply rely on the way things have been. Set yourself apart from others and establish your own brand. Following your dreams may not always seem practical, but have the courage to never settle for second best. As I started to develop a new business model and prepared to establish my own company, performing opportunities were still scarce. By this time, I was married with 2 children, and in order to make ends meet, I had to take a job as a manager in a restaurant. Shortly thereafter, I was faced with a critical decision when I was offered opportunities of future ownership of the restaurants. I knew that I could be successful and support my family if I stayed there. I could have easily settled for what seemed practical. But thankfully, I'm blessed with a beautiful wife that shares my passion for performing. And together, we decided to continue to pursue our dreams of having a successful entertainment company. I continued working in the restaurant while I pursued every opportunity to secure our next contract. And after 1 year, we were invited to perform in Japan. I saw this as my opportunity to start building my own brand. So I proposed that we step beyond the 7-person pyramid and create a world record 4-layer, 8-person pyramid on the wire. I also planned a different artistic style than my family would have traditionally used, including modern music, lighting, and costumes. Although I met a lot of resistance from my family to many of the changes, I pushed forward. And towards the end of our 1-month stay in Japan, we broke our first world record. Whether success or setback, the process of pursuing dreams develops the traits necessary to obtain them. For the next 5 years, we produced thrill shows in amusement parks throughout the world. And in 2006, me and my wife were invited to headline on Ringling Brothers' Barnum & Bailey Circus for a 2-year run. Towards the end of 2008, I set my first personal world record for the highest and longest distance on a bicycle on a high wire, which was covered live on the Today Show. In 2009, I began filming my own reality TV series where I broke 3 more world records. And for the final episode, I recreated the walk that had taken the life of my great-grandfather back in 1978 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. My career was advancing during this stretch, but I also experienced setbacks. While touring with Ringling, I'd set my mind on walking across the Grand Canyon. And after securing the location and even purchasing the cable, the required funding was pulled. After I'd spent 6 months filming a TV series, it was canceled after the first episode. I remember several conversations with my managers and friends expressing my frustration that my vision for my future seemed so close, yet remained so elusive. However, as I look back now, I recognize that these years were preparing me to achieve my dream. It wasn't wasted time. My marriage and family were being strengthened. My faith was being tested, yet growing. But perhaps more importantly, that never give up mantra was becoming ingrained in my character. To sacrifice my family, my faith, or who I am to further my career would have left my dream empty. Stories of lives ruined by quick success are far too common. The journey from a high-wire platform at the age of 13 to the finishing platform at Niagara Falls revealed to me that with success, I wanted people to view Nik Wallenda as an ordinary guy with a very unordinary profession. This morning, I shared so much of my story with you, not to impress you, but in hopes of encouraging you. Last year, as I completed my walk over Niagara Falls, I realized the fulfillment of more than just the dream of that one wire walk, but of a career that I'd pursued for so long. Settle in your mind at this very moment that you will never give up in the pursuit of your dreams. Allow both triumph and adversity along the way build you as a person, and seek out what will make you unique and set you apart from everyone else. On June 23rd of this year, I'll step out on a wire and I'll view the Grand Canyon from a vantage point that no one in the world ever has before. From what vantage point do you hope to one day view your life? Don't settle for second best, pursue your dreams, and never give up.